I stood in the doorway of what could have been our future home watching Jessica spin excitedly in the sunlit living room. For 3 years I thought I knew her, but that evening she showed her true self. When we discussed financing our dream house, she casually suggested I pay 70% while she kept sole ownership. The moment felt surreal, like watching someone you love transform into a stranger. Tell me where you are watching this from in the comments below. And if you have experienced something similar, hit that like button and subscribe to hear how this shocking story unfolds. I met Jessica at a charity fundraiser in downtown Seattle. I was 34, established in my career as a software engineer at a tech company, and tired of the dating scene. She walked into the venue, wearing a blue dress that matched her eyes perfectly, her laughter drawing attention from across the room. We locked eyes over the silent auction table, both bidding on the same weekend getaway package to a cabin in the mountains. "You should let me win," she said with a playful smile. "I really need a vacation after the marketing campaign I just finished." "Or we could go together," I replied, surprising myself with my boldness. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued rather than offended. "That is either extremely presumptuous or the best pickup line I have heard in years." We ended up splitting the cost of the auction item and exchanged numbers. Our first date happened the following week at a small Italian restaurant where we talked until the staff began putting chairs on tables. Jessica was smart, ambitious, and seemed to share my values about family and building a stable future. She worked as a marketing director for a cosmetics company, traveling occasionally, but mostly based in Seattle like me. What started as casual dating quickly deepened into something serious. We both enjoyed hiking the trails around Mount Rainier, trying new restaurants, and quiet evenings watching documentaries. Within 6 months, we were practically living together, splitting time between my downtown apartment and her place closer to the water. "I think you might be the one," I told her on our 1-year anniversary, as we watched the sunset from Kerry Park. She squeezed my hand and kissed me, whispering that she felt the same way. After 2 years together, I decided to propose. I planned an elaborate surprise, recruiting her friends to help organize a scavenger hunt around the city, visiting all our favorite spots. The final destination was the rooftop garden, where we had our third date, decorated with hundreds of twinkling lights and flowers. When she arrived, breathless and excited from following the clues, I was waiting with the ring my grandmother had left me. I dropped to one knee as our favorite song played softly in the background. "Jessica, these past 2 years have shown me what it means to truly love someone. You challenge me, support me, and make me a better person. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" Her eyes filled with tears as she nodded emphatically. "Yes, Alton, yes, I will marry you." Our friends and family emerged from their hiding spots, cheering and taking photos. That night, surrounded by everyone we loved, felt like the beginning of our perfect future together. We set the date for the following fall, giving us plenty of time to plan. Jessica immediately dove into wedding preparations, creating Pinterest boards and scheduling appointments with vendors. I was happy to let her take the lead, only weighing in on the bigger decisions like venue and budget. It was around this time that I noticed the first subtle shifts in our relationship. What started as casual conversations about our finances began feeling more like interrogations. Jessica wanted detailed information about my savings, investments, and spending habits. "How much do you have in your 401k right now?" she asked one evening as we prepared dinner. "Around 350,000, I answered truthfully. "I started contributing early when I joined the company." "That is impressive," she said, but something in her tone felt calculating rather than admiring. "And your stock options?" I explained my portfolio in detail, somewhat proud of my financial planning. But when I mentioned the monthly allowance I sent to my younger brother, who was studying engineering at university, her expression hardened. "You send him $2,000 every month. That seems excessive, Alton. He could get loans like everyone else. He is my only sibling, and our parents struggled to put me through college. I promised myself I would help him if I could ever afford to." Jessica pressed her lips together but dropped the subject. Over the next few weeks, however, similar tensions arose. She questioned my donations to my alumni scholarship fund and suggested I was being taken advantage of by friends who occasionally borrowed money. Her own spending habits contrasted sharply with her scrutiny of mine. Jessica thought nothing of dropping hundreds of dollars on designer shoes or handbags, explaining them as investments in her professional appearance. When I gently suggested setting a joint budget as we prepared for marriage, she became defensive. "I work hard for my money, Alton. I do not need anyone monitoring my purchases." Despite these occasional disagreements, our relationship remained strong in other areas. We still enjoyed our weekend hikes, cooking together, and planning our future. I rationalized the financial discussions as normal pre-marriage adjustments, believing we would find our balance eventually. About 8 months before our wedding date, Jessica brought up the idea of buying a house. "The market is really favorable right now," she explained, showing me listings on her tablet. "Interest rates are low, and prices in the neighborhoods we like are only going to increase. It makes more sense to buy now, rather than waiting until after the wedding." The suggestion caught me off guard. While we had discussed owning a home together, eventually I had imagined renting for the first year of marriage, while we adjusted to our new life together. "Are you sure now is the right time?" I asked cautiously. "We have the wedding to finance, and buying a house is another major commitment." "That is exactly why it makes sense," Jessica insisted. "Instead of throwing money away on rent, we could be building equity. Plus, think how nice it would be to come home from our honeymoon to our own place, not some temporary apartment." Put that way, the idea held certain appeal. We both had stable jobs and good credit scores. And truthfully, the thought of house hunting with my future wife, choosing our first home together, filled me with excitement. We spent the next several weekends visiting open houses across different Seattle neighborhoods. Jessica preferred the more upscale areas north of the city, while I leaned toward the diverse, up-and-coming communities to the south. We eventually compromised on a charming neighborhood with good schools and a reasonable commute for both of us. The house we fell in love with was a craftsman-style home, with 4 bedrooms, a spacious backyard, and a recently renovated kitchen. It needed some cosmetic updates, but had good bones and plenty of character. At $875,000, it stretched our budget, but seemed worth the investment. "This is it," Jessica whispered, as we stood in the main bedroom, with its bay windows overlooking a magnolia tree. "I can see us raising a family here." I wrapped my arms around her, imagining future Christmases, birthday parties, and quiet Sunday mornings in this space. The real estate market was moving quickly, and our agent advised making an offer soon if we were serious. "I will talk to the mortgage broker tomorrow." I promised, already mentally calculating what we could afford for a down payment. That evening, after returning from the house viewing, Jessica and I sat at my kitchen table with glasses of wine discussing the financial logistics. I had pulled up my accounts on my laptop, reviewing what we could reasonably afford. "I think we can manage 15% down," I said. "We would have to postpone our honeymoon to Europe until next year, but it seems worth it if this is really our dream house." Jessica took a long sip of her wine before responding. "I have been thinking about how we should structure this purchase." "What do you mean?" "We would apply for the mortgage jointly, right? Both our names on the deed." She set down her glass carefully. "Actually, I think it makes more sense if you cover the down payment entirely. I can contribute to the monthly mortgage, but I would like the house to be in my name only." I stared at her, certain I had misheard. "You want me to pay the entire down payment over $100,000, but not be on the deed? That cannot be what you are saying." "It is just a precaution, Alton. Marriages do not always work out, and I want to protect myself." The room seemed to tilt sideways. After 3 years together, and months away from our wedding, my fiancée was essentially planning for our divorce before we even married. "Jessica, that makes absolutely no sense. If anything, the house should be in both our names, with legal documentation specifying what happens if we ever separated." Her expression hardened. "If you trusted me, this would not be an issue. I thought you were committed to our future." "I am committed to our future together, not to handing over my life savings with no protection. I need some time to think about this." She gathered her purse and stood up. Fine. Think about it. But the real estate market waits for no one, and I really want that house. After Jessica left, I sat in stunned silence, replaying the conversation. This felt fundamentally wrong, but I wondered if I was overreacting. The next day, I called my friend Mike, who practiced family law, and explained the situation. "Are you out of your mind?" he exclaimed. "Never, and I mean never, put a significant asset solely in someone else's name, especially before marriage. If you two want to buy a house together, you need proper legal protection, both names on the deed, and possibly a prenuptial agreement regarding the property." She said it is about protecting herself in case things do not work out. "And who is protecting you?" Mike countered. "This is a massive red flag, Alton. At minimum, you need to slow down and think carefully before proceeding." Over the next few days, I researched property ownership laws and spoke with my parents about the situation. My father, usually reserved with his opinions about my relationships, expressed serious concern. "Son, when you marry someone, you become partners in everything. This arrangement, she is suggesting, fundamentally undermines that partnership before it even begins." When I finally sat down with Jessica again, I was resolved to find a compromise that would protect us both. "I have given this a lot of thought," I began carefully. "I am happy to buy a house together, but we need to either both be on the deed or create a legally binding agreement about the property before purchasing." Jessica's face flushed with anger. "You have been talking to a lawyer, have not you? Do you not trust me at all?" "This is not about trust. It is about making sound financial decisions. Either option protects both of us." "You know what, I have not been completely honest," she admitted, surprising me. "I was married before briefly in my 20s. My ex-husband got half of everything in the divorce, including the house I had saved for. I swore I would never let that happen again." This revelation stunned me. In 3 years together, she had never once mentioned a previous marriage. Why am I just hearing about this now? What else do not I know about you? It was a mistake I wanted to forget. I did not think it was relevant to our relationship. The conversation devolved into our first major argument, with accusations and hurt feelings on both sides. We parted without resolution, the house question hanging between us like a dark cloud. In the weeks that followed, tensions escalated. Jessica began bringing up the house at every opportunity, setting arbitrary deadlines for my decision. What hurt most was discovering she had been discussing our private financial matters with her friends and family, painting me as uncommitted and stingy. Sarah's husband bought their house himself and put it in both their names, she would say. He actually believes in their future together. The pressure mounted as mutual friends began asking me why I was being difficult about the house purchase. Jessica had successfully isolated me, creating a narrative where I was the problem. Even as I tried to explain my perspective, I felt increasingly cornered. The breaking point came unexpectedly, one evening when Jessica left her phone unattended while taking a shower at my apartment. A message notification appeared on her screen from her best friend Amanda. Normally, I would never invade someone's privacy, but the preview text caught my eye. "So will he agree to the house arrangement, or what?" Against my better judgment, I tapped the screen to read the full exchange. What I discovered made my blood run cold. "He is still hesitating about putting the house in my name," Jessica had written, "but I think he will come around. Once I have the house secured, we can figure out the next steps." Amanda's response was equally troubling. "Smart move. If things do not work out, you will be in a much better position financially." Jessica had replied, "Exactly. And with his income and savings, I can finally get the house I deserve without stretching myself thin. He is too trusting sometimes." I scrolled up further, finding more discussions about my finances. Jessica's reservations about our relationship and explicit strategies for securing assets before the wedding. She referred to our marriage as probably lasting a few years at least, and mentioned that in case of divorce, having the house in my name will be a huge advantage. My hands shaking, I put down the phone exactly as I had found it. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I was planning to spend my life with, had been calculating and manipulating me from the beginning. When Jessica emerged from the shower, I could barely look at her. "Everything okay?" she asked, noticing my expression. "I need to ask you something," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "How many times have you been married before?" Her face paled slightly. "I told you just once." "Why?" "Because I just found some information suggesting that is not true." After pressing her, Jessica finally admitted she had been married and divorced twice before, not once, as she had claimed. Her second ex-husband had also lost significant assets in their divorce. "So you lied to me. For 3 years you have been lying about your past." "It is not a lie. It is an omission," she argued defensively. "And you invaded my privacy by checking up on me. That proves you do not trust me." "I saw messages about your plans for the house," I confessed, "about securing it in your name and planning for our divorce before we are even married." Rather than deny it, Jessica went on the offensive. "You had no right to read my private conversations. This is exactly why I need to protect myself. You obviously do not respect boundaries." "Boundaries. You have been discussing our financial situation with your friends, strategizing how to get my money tied up in a house you would own outright. How is that respecting boundaries?" The confrontation escalated into the worst argument of our relationship. Jessica oscillated between attacking me for invading her privacy and attempting to justify her deception as self-protection. By the end, she delivered an ultimatum: either agree to her terms on the house purchase or call off the wedding. I spent that night alone in my apartment, unable to sleep as I replayed every moment of our relationship in my mind. How many red flags had I ignored? How many lies had I believed? The financial interrogations, the expensive tastes, the isolation from my friends, all suddenly made sense in this new context. I called my father at dawn, something I had never done before. "Dad, I need your honest opinion. Am I making a mistake with Jessica?" After listening to the full story, he sighed heavily. "Son, I have had reservations about her for some time. Your mother and I both noticed how she treats you when she thinks no one is watching. But we wanted you to be happy, and you seemed so sure. I thought I was sure," I admitted, my voice breaking. "Now I do not know if I ever really knew her at all. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that save us the most pain. In the long run," he said gently, "whatever you decide, we are here for you." By morning, I had made my decision. It was painful, but I knew it was right. I asked Jessica to meet me at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop we rarely frequented. She arrived looking confident, clearly expecting me to capitulate to her demands. "I have made my decision," I said when we were seated with our coffees. "I am calling off the wedding." Her expression shifted from shock to anger in seconds. "Because of the house, you are throwing away our entire relationship over property." "No, not because of the house. Because I cannot marry someone who has been dishonest about her past, who discusses our private financial matters with friends, and who is already planning for our divorce. I deserve better than that." "We both do." Jessica's tactics shifted immediately. She began crying, claiming she was just scared of being hurt again, that she would agree to any terms I wanted for the house. When that did not work, she became cold and threatening, suggesting she would tell everyone I had abused her trust. "You can say whatever you want," I told her firmly. "The truth will come out eventually. I am not changing my mind." I slid her engagement ring across the table, the same ring that had belonged to my grandmother. "I will contact the venue and cancel the reservations," I said, standing up. "Please do not contact me, except through Mike, if you need to discuss logistical matters." Walking away from that coffee shop was one of the hardest things I have ever done. But with each step, I felt the weight lifting from my shoulders. The fallout was predictable but still painful. Jessica embarked on a campaign to salvage her reputation by damaging mine. She told mutual friends I had cheated on her, that I was financially controlling, that I had anger issues. Some believed her, and I lost friendships I had valued. My family rallied around me, as did my oldest friends, who had known me long enough to see through the accusations. Mike handled the cancellation of wedding arrangements, minimizing my direct contact with Jessica. The deposits were lost, but it seemed a small price to pay for freedom. The hardest part was facing my own blind spots and confronting how I had ignored so many warning signs. I had been so invested in the idea of finding the one that I had projected my own values onto Jessica instead of seeing her for who she really was. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding. I moved to a new apartment, in a different neighborhood, joined a rock-climbing gym to channel my stress, and started seeing a therapist to process the experience. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my relationship, and strengthened bonds with those who had stood by me. 6 months after what would have been our wedding day, I took a solo trip to the mountain cabin, where Jessica and I had originally planned our honeymoon. Sitting on the porch watching the sunset, I felt genuine gratitude for the painful lesson I had learned. I had narrowly avoided tying myself legally and financially to someone who did not have my best interests at heart. The experience taught me to trust my instincts and not ignore red flags in relationships. I learned that love alone is not enough without honesty, mutual respect, and shared values. Most importantly, I discovered my own resilience, the ability to make difficult choices to protect my future, even when those choices hurt in the present. Today, I am rebuilding my life one day at a time. I am more cautious about relationships, but not cynical. I believe in love and partnership more than ever, but now I understand that true love includes honesty, transparency, and mutual support, not manipulation and secret planning. Has anyone else experienced a similar situation where someone showed their true colors right before a major commitment? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Share this with someone who might be ignoring red flags in their own relationship. They might need to hear that it is okay to walk away when something does not feel right. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the greatest growth. Your future self will thank you for the courage you show today.